Hi, I'm John,
And I'm Paul.
and this is the Minute Podcast.
If you give a mouse a cookie, I'm pretty sure he'd write a book. But give us 60 seconds of footage and we'll tell you where to look. With a concept this simplistic, it's hard to say if it'll last. But give us just a minute and we'll give you a podcast. The Minute Podcast. Great, thanks for joining us again. As you may know by now, this is a weekly conversation between John and myself where we review a listener-submitted minute of content, either from movies, TV, or somewhere else on the internet, and we try to talk about it, orient ourselves, and figure out what's going on. John, what are we looking at today?
All right, today we're discussing a clip from Birdemic, Shock and Terror. It's known as The Clapping Scene, and that link's going to be in the description for the podcast, and this is supplied by Robert.
Excellent, and this week's episode is brought to us by the droids you're looking for. These ones. These droids. You found them. Visit Motorola.com/MinutePod for a 10% discount on your droids today.
All right. So, what do we want to talk about first is our relation to this clip, how much we know about it, how much we have familiarity with it. How about you, Paul? What are you familiar with Birdemic, Shock and Terror?
You know, I think I've heard it mentioned as one of those famously bad movies or something in that context, but beyond that, nothing at all. I had it briefly confused with Alfred Hitchcock's Birds or The Birds. Turns out not the same thing.
Yeah. I also am vaguely familiar with it. My cousin's husband, who I lived with them briefly, and he loves horrible movies, and so he's shown me the ad for Birdemic, and talked about it in glowing terms, but in any other way, I know very little or anything about the plot of this film, or basically at all. I feel like birds are most likely involved,
but we really don't know, at least not yet.
No.
So. Just to quickly go through the description of what we're going to say in the script, what's going to be happening. This scene takes place in what appears to be a boardroom of some kind. There's a man up at the front delivering news to a group of people in the room, and the remainder of the clip is just them reacting to that news.
Yep.
Great. Well, John, let's do a reading of the script then. Do you want to be businessman?
Yeah, I'll be the businessman.
You be the businessman, and then we should both be the office workers.
All right.
All right.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I have some great news. Our board of directors has agreed to the acquisition of MCT Software by Oracle Corporation for $1 billion.
Woo! Woohoo! Woo! Woohoo!
Yeah.
Woo! Yeah!
You guys have worked so hard. You've all earned your stock options. Congratulations.
Woo! Yeah!
Yeah.
Yeah! Yeah!
Yeah.
Woo! Stock options. Woo!
Yeah.
Woo! Stock options.
Yeah.
Was that 6?
I think so.
Okay. I should add, they didn't actually say stock options in the office worker group at any point. I got a little carried away.
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
apologize for
This isn't an improv or a bad movie podcast, Paul. What are we doing right now? Okay.
I ask myself that every time we sit down to record one of these, John.
All right. We just have to define ourselves rather than having people define us. Okay.
On the internet. Okay, so as you can tell, not a lot of dialogue happening in that scene. And John, it's possible that people might have picked up on the subtle breaks in the audio we were trying to put in there.
Yes.
The breaks in the clapping sessions.
The breaks that I don't inherently already sort of edit into it or try and attempt to edit out of it at any given point in time.
Right, well, why did we do that, John?
Okay, that is because I assume that they only had one camera to shoot this thing. So the every time that the camera cut to a different group of people, it was in fact them clapping for all of 30 seconds, and then it would cut to a different group, and then they would start clapping again, as though we wanted to experience the initial clapping experience that everyone else would, only through a long period of time, so that we could know and understand each of the characters sitting around this table. And by characters, I mean extras that were obviously already working on this film and were told to come in with business shirts.
Well, why do you think they would have made that choice from a cinematography background? Is there any potential reason for that? Because it's incredibly weird that they would stop and start clapping. Like, even if you only had one camera,
well,
you would think.
They also kept using the same clip of some of them.
I noticed that at least some of it was repeat clips.
Yeah. And the audio would also, like, they obviously would use, like, the extras would obviously, like, just say the same thing or, like, shout the same thing at the beginning each time. So they'd seem like robotic, as that they're just starting the same thing over and over and over and over and over again.
Incredibly strange.
It's almost as though they tried to clip together multiple camera shots, but then, like, instead of having it naturally, like, you know, switch from this camera to this camera at the same time, you know, like that sort of thing, have it be like an actual movement of time, they decided just to start the scene over and over again, just from different angles.
Do you think this was made in iMovie?
It certainly feels like it. Well, the other thing I noticed is that the businessman, he's alone in his shot. When he's talking, he's by himself in seemingly an empty room, because there is an absolute sound difference between the businessman standing and talking and then when people are clapping. Like, I understand this from, like, maybe a technical perspective, like clapping requires, like, less sound editing, like it would be a more difficult thing to sort of, like, restrain in terms of ambient sounds and stuff. I'm sure this is going to be a hell of an episode of our own podcast to edit because of the clapping, which is why we clap softly. But
yes, we totally clap softly.
Yes, well, I clapped softly. If you go deaf, it's because of Paul. And so one of the things is that, like, it's just going to be like, it'll be a perfectly, like the audio balance will be perfect for the businessman, and then all of a sudden it'll sound like you're watching this through a television, like 50 feet away when they're clapping.
It's even worse than that, John, because visually he's by himself in some shots, and then he has people behind him.
Yes, he has a man, this poor green beshirted man, who stands beside him the entire scene when it's a far shot from across the table. But the moment it's over, like right in front of him, like a mid shot, that's when the green man disappears. And so, like,
it means to get this incredible delivery from businessman, they had to take the shot more than once. This was a redo,
yes.
Right?
A redo. Or it's a sound consideration thing. I don't know. Or
it's plausible.
I mean, I would not put it, like, the quality of video is not so good that I couldn't tell, like, is this a green screen that's just been compressed enough that, like, you know, is the businessman talk, like, in a studio? And then they, like, just randomly were able to get into this office space for 30 seconds, so they just had to, like, take one take of them clapping for 30 seconds and then run out.
Maybe that's what it was. They didn't actually have permission to be in the space, so they all just walked in, filmed it, and just ran off.
Yeah, I mean, they're all in business attire. Somebody can hide the camera in, like, a bag or something that they take into the office. And then that's when, you know, the security guard knocks on the door and is like, wait, you don't work here? And then they just...
John, are you saying this entire movie is a series of flash mobs?
That works. Or, like, guerrilla movie making.
That sounds much more exciting.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
John, I have an awful lot to say about this clip.
There is a lot to say about a clip with very little dialogue or really anything happening.
Almost no content at all.
No.
The first thing that I want to say, though, is what year do you think this movie was made in?
Oh,
Because I accidentally saw what I think is the production date in, like, the YouTube description, and I want to get your thoughts first.
Okay, so my guess would be, like, early 2000s?
2010.
2010.
If the YouTube description is to be believed, and my recollection is to be believed. But I thought this looked like it was made in like 1997.
I mean,
not only
it
because
definitely
of the
not
film
2010.
quality,
Like we were both over
Yeah.
10 years off, Paul. Like that's
which was pretty upsetting. But like, also the costumes that people are wearing. Some of their business wear looks very modern, but some of it kind of looks like it's from the 90s.
I mean, a lot of it kind of looks like it was picked out of like a bargain bin at Walmart. Like this looks like the sort of
Yeah.
like business wear you'd pick up in like, you know, a big box store. Like a place where, you know, you can buy a lot of really cheap business clothes to put on extras for a low cost, right?
That is damn plausible. But the first thing that I thought when I watched this clip for the first time is, so you have the opening line, "Ladies and gentlemen,"
Yeah.
and I was convinced that Businessman was going to say, "This is Mambo number 5."
Why? Why Mambo
had no
number
idea.
5?
Because that's how Mambo number 5 starts. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mambo number 5.
What about the business? Okay, we should describe Businessman. Describe Businessman for the audience, Paul, because I want to see your logic behind. I want to see Businessman through your eyes to see where this is going to go into Mambo number 5 territory. Okay.
Okay, so Businessman looks like a stereotypical middle manager from a mid-sized corporate conglomerate from 1987. So he's a little thick. He's a little wrinkled.
Thick.
He has some sort of mustache, I think.
Yes.
He might be balding.
Balding and
he just-
mustachioed would definitely be two of the things that I think. I
He
don't
also
have the
has
video
on a,
open,
he has
so-
on. I don't either, but he has a large pinky ring also.
Of course he does.
A large gold pinky ring. So you put all that together, and I'm like, maybe he is going to sing Mambo number 5.
Does the pinky ring possibly help him with his clapping?
Oh,
Like, does it add a nice like flourish to it, like a weight? Like, you know how you put like you can buy mice, like computer mice with weights inside of them. I mean, I imagine you could probably buy regular mice with weights inside of them, but I'm not interested in that particularly. But like computer mice with weights inside of them to help you, like, I don't know.
Maybe that's what it is. It's a counterbalance because his right hand, he's a really small pinky, and his left hand has like a big pinky, so he had to counterbalance
like,
for this clapping scene.
I'm gonna wear my clapping ring today, and everybody's like, "Oh, Bob had his clapping ring on." I think we got some good news about this MCT software and Oracle Corporation buyout.
Well, John, let's talk about the good news a little bit, actually.
Okay.
Do these people work for MCT Software or Oracle Corporation, or neither?
Well, considering I happen to know that Oracle Corporation is an actual real-life large conglomerate, like,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure they're a big network. They're some sort of computer-y thing. I mean, software is obviously part of MCT, but I don't think they're part of Oracle. Because I imagine Oracle, people who work at Oracle can probably afford to buy their shirts at least from Amazon instead of Walmart.
Okay. So we're saying that these people work for MCT Software?
Yeah. You also see in the middle of the table that they're all sitting at, it looks like they just have like a strip of like what is it that you know,
With the surge protectors?
Yeah, the surge protectors, but they're like, you know, just gray surge protectors coming up through the middle of the table instead of like the table being a like, you know, like an office table with surge with like, you know, built-in surge protectors.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute then, before we
A
swing
minute
back
on the surge
around
protectors now,
to
are we?
MCT. Well, not just the surge protectors, but the room that they're in general. So my theory is that they're actually in a small classroom at a community college.
Like the actual, like the corporation
The actual
is,
set.
or
No, that's where the set is. And that's because they have these really cheap fake tabletops on top of what I assume are even cheaper tables underneath. You ever been in like an office that doesn't have a really big table in the boardroom, so they take these things out and roll them out to cover the like pop-up tables they have there?
Nope.
Well, it exists.
I'm
And
sure
it's what
it
you
does.
do if you don't have a big fancy table. So I think in trying to make this room look as much like a boardroom as they could, they brought in some folding card tables, put those on top, stuck those power cords through the surge protectors. You'll see everyone has a single sheet of blank printer paper, a single pencil, and a water bottle.
And a water bottle. Yes, I noticed
Nothing
the water
written on
bottles.
any of it. And behind them is a big chalkboard behind Businessman. with the same kind of cheap covers put over it to make it look like a proper wall. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So I'm very nearly convinced that this was shot in like a Hagerstown community college.
Hagerstown specifically.
Classroom. Well, it
looks shitty enough to be a Hagerstown community college room. So.
Ooh, sick burn on HCC.
Yeah, nobody knows what we're talking about. All right, so, yes.
But okay. So is that everything about the actual setting of the room?
I do think that's everything of the setting. There's like a pull down projector screen, right? Isn't there somewhere in there?
Yeah, there seemed to be one up in the corner. They also had an easel set up.
An easel, that's what it was, I think. I don't know.
I think there was also a projector in there somewhere. But
not a projector, just a screen.
Just the screen, yeah. They can't afford the projector.
No. They can barely afford the movie, apparently.
They can't afford this movie. But we never settled on if they definitely work for MCT software or not.
I think they work for MCT, because why else would they be thrilled about being acquired by Oracle? And also, like, their stock options now are valuable because they are now acquired by Oracle, right?
Okay, so our theory then is that they work for MCT, which has been bought out by Oracle for $1 billion. So it's a sizable company.
Yeah.
They're excited to now be part of Oracle primarily because of their stock options. Are we sure they're not going to get fired as part of this merger? That's a question I have. So I don't think these people are important enough to be getting any kind of payout or big bonuses as part of the merger. They're not on the board. We know that.
Yeah. I don't know.
I guess you're right. The main benefit is that they're getting their stock options are now worth more.
Yeah.
Is that how it works in corporate mergers? Your old stocks become part of the new company stocks in a merger?
Yeah. Why not? I don't know. I've been part of a large company, but
never been merged.
No, never been merged. I worked with a lot of people who had been. Oh God, I don't know if I like the word merged anymore. But yeah, so like, anyway, so like, yeah, I guess like maybe they just have to move their offices to where Oracle is, and if they don't want to, there's an option, like a layoff sort of option or something.
They seem very excited to either have that buyout option, to have their stocks be worth.
I mean, presumably, if their company is worth $1 billion, which I love is just an arbitrary number that they just like nothing about this office makes them seem like they're worth $1 billion unless they I don't know, unless they just released PUBG. I don't think that I this is what the office is.
They didn't say Bluehole.
Yeah, this is what I imagine the Korean offices of Bluehole looking like, except like with like a horrible drop ceiling and all this sort of stuff. And they're like, what do we do with like the $4.6 billion that we're now worth? Anyway, sorry, completely off topic, but
not inaccurate.
No, exactly.
Beyond that, everyone in the room kind of looks like at best a middle manager, which I think is who gets fired the most in a merger. So I'm pretty sure all these guys are going to get laid off, and it's not going to be worth getting this excited about.
Not only that, but we look around the room, and I don't like anybody in this room. Like, I kind of like the businessman, Bob, whatever his name is. I forget what we... Ab?
I don't think we ever learned his name.
Oh, okay. No, I mean, but whatever we just made up his name is.
We just called him Businessman.
Businessman? Okay, Businessman.
He's too generic to get a name.
I kind of like BM, but I'm not really sure I like anybody else in this room. I'm pretty sure that everyone else here is a horrible human being.
Especially white shirt Kevin and mustard shirt Steve.
Oh my God, I was just going to call him Kevin too.
Yes.
He's totally a Kevin, right?
Yeah, I think these two are having an office affair of some kind.
While watching this, I was like, Paul's going to suggest they're having an affair.
Okay, let's go into the logic behind it. Yes. Do you want to describe their interaction?
Yes. So, we're sitting here being tortured by having to watch these people clap over and over, react over and over again to this news. And while we're doing so, like, it's mostly just people smiling that look like they've been smiling for about 6 hours to get this shot right, and are just now like, oh God, please let this be the last one. But, what was it? Mark and Steve and Kevin? Who was?
Steve and Kevin.
Steve and Kevin. So Steve and Kevin are sitting here, And I assume Kevin is the one on the right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Definitely.
I just wanted to make sure. So Kevin is to the right of Steve, and Steve seems mildly pissed at Kevin at the very beginning. And then as this is happening, he looks to the right towards the businessman, and like he gets this news. He starts looking back. He's like so happy, and Kevin pats him on the shoulder, which then turns into like in the next time that we see them, the next time we come around the table to look at them, Kevin is now like gyrating while sitting in his chair towards Steve, as Steve seems like mildly perturbed.
He's humping his chair,
yeah,
John.
He's humping his
we can
chair.
be a little more direct.
Kevin is humping Steve's chair while celebrating this $1 billion. The entire sequence is just like, no. Why would this be a thing that you? Why is this how you celebrate? Which is basically the question I have the entire sequence. Like every shot, I'm like, why is this how you celebrate this news? like what human does this, and in this way, to this news?
Well, that is exactly true. And my favorite thing about Steve and Kevin's interaction is that you see it happen for the first time, him humping his coworker's chair, which everyone seems to be okay with.
Yep.
And then, just to make sure you understood what was happening, they reuse the shot, but 3 feet to the left, so you can still see Steve in his chair looking over in the same way, while these ladies give the world's most awkward high five.
Oh no, it's not. Can you even call it a high five? First off, it's at like neck level. Like the hands never really get all that high. And then second off, they don't like ever come apart again. Is it possible that Steve and Kevin and these two ladies are all having affairs with one another? Like, is this like some sort of just like this row of people? They're the people that are each having affairs with one another, because these women just hold hands now. Like, this is just how their hands are after this high five.
I think it's a little more likely that they are so disturbed by what they saw Steve and Kevin do, and the fact that HR, who's also at the table, didn't say anything about it, that they're like, oh no, I've forgotten how to act like a human. Let me hold your hand.
Yeah. So, wait, no, then I want to know who HR is. Out of all these people.
I assume the blonde woman in the blazer, who we see right at the end.
Okay. I was going to go say that the guy who's laughing like a freaking maniac.
Laughing with blonde lady.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Oh, God. No. Why are they laughing? Like, what is funny about this? Like, really, it's
unclear.
Is this how people react to good news? Like, laugh as though they just saw, like, the greatest America's Funniest Home Video? Like, have you ever gotten news anything like this and then just been like,
I never have, but I've definitely never gotten news like this in a corporate boardroom, so for all we know, this could be normal.
This could be normal. That's true. I've never gotten this excited in a corporate boardroom before.
That's true.
Yeah, and not only that, but it seems like everybody in that shot was just told to laugh like a maniac, and then nobody else was.
That's definitely what's happening.
Because everyone else is just like, their mouth is like open in a smile, clapping, except for, Steve and Kevin.
Well, I guess it's entirely possible these were shot separately or shot on different days.
They were obviously shot on different days. None of these people were in the same room with one another.
God, it's very upsetting. Although at least there's no obvious repetition of the costumes.
No.
Between different extras.
It's not like, it's not like every other person is wearing the same mustard shirt or something.
The same green blazer. Mm-hmm. Man. All right, John, well, I guess, how do you think we got here in this scene then, and what do you think happens next?
So, at this point, Paul, I want to point out something.
Please do.
We've been recording this for about 25 minutes, given, the restart that I had to do at the beginning. And I just want to ask you, what the hell does this have to do with birds?
Oh.
Where are the birds, Paul?
I hadn't stopped to think about it, but I had assumed that one of the businesses was somehow bird-related, or was...
A software company, and what we know is most likely a networking company.
Yeah. Well, I now that you say it out loud, that makes a lot of sense. I assumed one of them had like a medical background, and there was an avian flu thing that was going to come up at some point, but you're right, neither of these companies should have anything to do with birds in any way.
And why does the scene exist at all? Like, who's the main... Like, is Steve and Kevin. Steve and Kevin, are they the main characters? Like, they seem to be the only people other than businessmen that is focused here. Like, why? Like, why does this scene exist in something called Birdemic, Shock and Terror?
That's a very valid question. I have no idea.
And we are at a disadvantage because this is a clip that was sent to us through YouTube, so we don't know where this is in the movie. But
I think in the submission, Robert said it was around minute 29, but...
Okay, around minute 29. So this is a half hour into presumably an hour and a half long movie?
It looks like it might be an hour and 10 minutes.
Okay, so an hour and 10 minutes and 32 seconds. You have the IMDb open, Paul?
I don't. It's just the quality speaks to shortness.
So this is nearly halfway through this movie, and we go an entire minute without a single bird or terror. Like, I mean, other than the actions of these people and how inhuman they are they birds? Like, is this like a Freaky Friday situation where, like, some birds and some people pee into a fountain together? And then it's also like a Trading Places situation where it turns out that the birds are better at business than the people are. And so now these are all like birds trying to learn how to be people at NCT software. That's what I think this is about. The end by John Ward.
John, I'm a little bit ashamed that my theories have nothing to do with birds.
Okay.
Looking at this clip, I had completely forgotten that the title had the word bird in it.
That's true.
I assume this was some sort of business film.
Okay.
And,
like some sort of, what is it, Wolf of Wall Street, except it's like the Bird of Wall Street.
Of Wall Street? What?
The Bird of Silicon Valley.
Valley of the Birds.
Birdman.
No.
Of Silicon Valley.
John, the theory that I have prepared doesn't make any sense now that we've revisited.
Did my theory...
It involved birds.
Yes, it's true, but
I had the word bird in it.
Oh, you should be confident in yourself. You should be able to tell me what is your theory that has nothing to do with birds.
So my theory, there's my real theory, and then there's my theory of what I want this movie to be about.
Okay.
So my real theory is that they probably work for MCT company, whatever. Mm-hmm. They're being bought out, and they're about to make a lot of money, but not that much money because their office is clearly a Holiday Inn Express boardroom, or So I had assumed it was just some sort of business movie. What I wanted it to be was the fever dream of a madman who had done a lot of business cocaine in the 80s and is like currently in a psych ward reliving his business days, but...
Okay. So, like...
Yeah.
So wait. That would explain the cinematography, though, right?
It would explain that. It would explain the weird interactions because he was high on cocaine. He doesn't remember it properly, but it still doesn't explain the birds.
You know, now if you frame it... No, Paul. If you frame it your way of what you gave this as, like, it does seem kind of... Not Lynchian. It would be sort of... Was it The Shining? Who did that?
I'm not going to remember that.
2001: Space Odyssey. Kubrick. It's sort of Kubrickian in like the Shining sort of way, where like the hallucinations and the man are in the same scene, and it's only simply just the way that it's shot and the way that everything is sort of interacting. That's the only way that you can tell what's real.
I guess it's possible.
Yeah.
Well,
is this secretly a beautifully shot movie?
No.
Okay,
well,
I'm willing to go with you on that.
Can we recommend this movie? I don't know if I can or not. I have no idea. Do you have a thought?
I mean, I can recommend this clip. There's no birds in this. Like, I have no idea what this movie's about. And if we are talking like...
So many questions.
If these are abstract birdemics, then maybe... I have no idea, Paul. I'm more confused about this than I am any other clip in terms of what the hell it's supposed to be about.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and recommend it, though, because I have no answers at all.
Okay.
And I want someone to know about what's happening here.
Okay.
So somebody watch this and let me know what's happening.
Okay.
Por favor.
Very good.
Okay. Any closing thoughts, John?
No. I'm just left with questions.
I have no thoughts whatsoever. But I do have a big thank you to Robert for recommending this week's Minute. Robert, you make me want to be a better man. You submit a lot of clips, and they're all beautiful and confusing. It's great. If you want to support the podcast, you can submit your own clip using the Contact Us form on our website, theminutepodcast.com. You can also review us on iTunes or wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. Reach out to us at theminutepodcast@gmail.com, on Twitter @minutepod, or on Facebook. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully we can have some more answers for you next week. If not, we'll see you then.
Yep. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Holy crap, you made it to the end. We'll be back next week to do it all again. Until then, be well and be sure to take a minute. The Minute Podcast.